bodies all around me. Bodies, bound hands, bound feet, waking up to nightmares. Justice was just a dream.
It is my great pleasure to be talking today with Davy Lazare and Brandon Lawrence, who have created this amazing video called Bodies. And I think it's just a wonderful opportunity for us to meet them and to find out how they created this piece. So let's start with you, Davy. You want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
I'm Davy. I'm a film director. I currently work in advertising. That's the sort of day job. But I also do spoken word poetry. Use both of my sort of skills and, you know, sort of mediums that I work in, which is film and poetry. Married those to create this film with Brandon.
Yeah, I'm Brandon Lawrence. I'm a principal dancer with Birmingham Royal Ballet. During this time, I haven't necessarily been performing. Seeds for the film was pretty much sparked by the murder of George Floyd. And I wanted to kind of create something, a piece of art, because that's where I feel like my strengths lie. It wasn't about having dance there. That was actually the least important part. And with the team, I kind of made them all aware of that. I was like, look, the dancing, that's the least important part. But it was actually the words I wanted. And Davy is a childhood friend of my sister's. And I mean, I know Davy outside of Bodies for years before that. And I knew he did spoken word and poetry. And I just thought, I wonder if you'd be interested in doing something like this. It was really about the spoken word with the visuals of the dance. And I thought it'd be great to have music kind of like an underlying tone. So again, that was Alexia Bergman. She's a friend who's actually in her second year at the Guildhall School for Music. And then Ruth Brill, who's an ex-BRB dancer and English National Ballet dancer, and also one of my best friends, almost like a sister to me. And I thought, she can't choreograph it because it's a bit hard and on location, and she actually lives in Gibraltar now. But she was able to work with me via Zoom on kind of a dramaturg role with kind of the words. And after I'd scouted locations, see what would work. And just so then we were out there, when we were out there, I had things to rely on and kind of imagery and stuff and what I'd worked on with her. And I mean, yeah, my sister came, she helped pull a lot of things together. She was also there on the day. And that's kind of how it worked, really.
I mean, just to add to your point about, you know, about me, the filmmaker, spoken word poet, working with you, the dancer. You know, I remember I told you that night on the shoot that it had been my dream my whole life to work with a dancer, you know, and actually make a dance film.
Because what happened, I remember we knew it wasn't going to be a big Hollywood filming thing. Davy came up to Birmingham. It was all social distancing was there at the time. Like, this was filmed when it was, you know, lockdown. And I remember I scouted locations beforehand. We knew we had to be efficient. It really was a tripod when you needed it. It was a camera with 2 different lenses. That was it. No artificial lighting. It was, I scouted the locations, like I said, so it's 3 different places here in Birmingham. And
which is perfect as well. Like, I think, you know, there might be a career in film for you, you know, Brandon, because those locations just suited the film so well. I was like, because obviously one of the sort of the things that as a filmmaker that's really scary, you know, when you kind of give over some sort of reins, especially if finding the location to someone that doesn't have that you think doesn't have that filmic eye, you're worried that it's not going to work as well on film. But it was just so perfect in terms of, you know, the very dramatic sort of lighting and just the sort of scenery. It just kind of, it was amazing. So yeah.
And we also had to work quite strategic with it. So, and I knew I wanted to have it filmed at night time. However, I knew there's only a certain gap. So we had to do earlier shots in kind of from about 8 p.m. onwards, resulting in kind of the final sections that you see, which is kind of near it, it's kind of under a viaduct with artificial lighting, which obviously is council owned or something. And I mean, we filmed from about 8 p.m. till 3 in the morning. Like, that's final time where I'm looking up at the camera when Davy's saying humanity, humanity, humanity. That must have been about
That's 3 a.m.
in the morning. Yeah.
So 3 in the morning, yeah. So well done, Brandon, on not looking extremely tired, even though you were. You just done like a whole night of dancing, and to have a close up at the end of it, it's dangerous. We filmed all of the dancing, and so that was done. And then obviously once we'd done that, the plan was to then film my spoken word as a poetry. But just as we were about to do that, we dropped and smashed my camera, so I couldn't film my own spoken word bits. So, those scenes were actually filmed in London about a week and a half later. And I had my friend from work kind of just be behind the camera. So yeah, so that was the only thing that kind of needed to be reshot. But in terms of the editing, I think I probably spent like 4 days doing the editing and then 1 day doing the color grading, you know, just to really make the image sing and make it pop, you know what I mean?
It obviously, with the incredible filming that Davy did and how it's put together, we wanted it to stand the test of time as well. You know, this wasn't filmed, and there's been no disrespect for those who had to film things on phones and stuff during lockdown and kind of create that way, but we really wanted it to stand out kind of almost on another level, because we're taking it that seriously, you know, and that just shows through the writing, you know. Yes, it was sparked by George Floyd, yet there's so many other themes within the spoken word itself, and it goes right from bodies all the way through to humanity at the end with hope. It's up to the reader's interpretation as well. You know, people will interpret it in very different ways, and I know it probably won't be for everyone, or they might want to see it but not comment, and that's fine, you know, that's fine. But just by watching it and supporting it, people are already almost halfway there. Davy, you did kind of a rough version of the speed and the flow of the spoken word, and then we had music created around that. But then when I filmed, I actually did it in silence, because I knew that the filming would actually, the dance would all come together in the editing.
This is a film called Bodies, and you know, I would almost kind of say that the dancing is just as important, you know, as the spoken word in the filmmaking, because this is a film called Bodies, and you know, and you, Brandon, you know, are the body. You're the physical sort of metaphor, you know what I mean, for the bodies of, you know, let's just face it, you know, for the bodies of the murdered black men and women, you know what I'm saying? And the way you used your body to kind of capture that pain. Most of the poems that I write take me months to write, because one, you know, I'm kind of trying to fit sort of writing in and around my work life and social life, you know, and so obviously with writing, it's really about being in almost like a method actor who has to get into the role and has to become that person to sort of play the role. When I write a poem, I have to kind of become the poem. I have to, which sounds really cheesy, but you know, I have to really feel all of the emotions of the poem, and so that can be quite exhausting. And after a long day of work, you don't really feel like going into, you know, the emotions of a really sad sort of poem. But for this poem, I wrote it in about 3 or 4 days. So yeah, in terms of my process, there wasn't really a process. It was just taking the raw emotion, which was obviously huge, and almost kind of like, you know, from everyone in the world, you know, and this sort of outpouring of grief and sadness, but also just, you know, love and sort of, you know, love and care. There was like an unlimited amount of inspiration because of how big this event was. So it was just about kind of taking all that inspiration and finding the little nuggets and organizing them. So I guess that was the only sort of process, you know, because, you know, obviously inspiration can be really sort of hard to come by, but because of the scale and the gravity of the events that had happened, there was no shortage of that. So it was a case of, you know, knowing how to almost edit, you know, and edit the inspiration and taking it this here and putting it there, and then just kind of putting it together. But yeah, it was just kind of instinct, and just, you know, if I felt it and I felt it was true, then it went in to the poem. So yeah, that was the process really.
It's a wonderful work of art. I mean, you know, there's obviously the very serious message behind it and the terrible events that led to this situation we're in now. But it's just such a wonderful marriage of the sound, the music, the voice, the spoken word message, and the emotion in your dancing as well. And you can tell that no matter it was maybe shot in parts, it really has this cohesive whole to it. It's really so satisfying and really touching to watch. I mean, I've watched it several times already, and I never, you know, I would keep finding new things in it and depth in it, and it's just an amazing piece of work. And congratulations on what you've created there. It really is fabulous.
It's obviously, it's very sort of heavy. It's very heavy, you know, as a subject.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, so it's but you know, that is no reason to kind of not have the younger generation sort of view it and, you know, try and get their head around it and try and start sort of thinking on, you know, of how, you know, obviously them being the next sort of generation, you know, of sort of leaders and thinkers and doers, it's really great to kind of get them to, to understand the importance for sort of diversity, and just equality.
It is hard, and I don't have the answers either. However, it's just about talking about it, keeping awareness, staying open. That's what it is. Staying inclusive. That's pretty much what it is. Not kind of like learning from past events, not by trying to rub them out. What I mean by that, for instance, like the statue that went down in Bristol. Okay, that went down out of hate and anger. I understand, but when it's kind of plotting to take other ones down, that's not the way, that's not how you move forward, because we have to look at them and think, but we learn from that, so why don't you change the plaque and kind of move on rather than vandalizing and, by pulling something down or trying to rub out history, it doesn't mean it hasn't happened. So we might as well learn from it and move on. So it's really, for me, I think it's staying open. It's a slow transition, like many things are, especially when it's a global thing. But it's keeping awareness and keeping the conversation going.
No, absolutely. I absolutely agree. So as I said at the start, I work in advertising. So just obviously, we've had quite a lot of sort of, change, and kind of there's been much more of an awareness in terms of the inclusivity that's needed in, in my industry as well. And two things that I found that are really important is getting Black voices, kind of either in management or somewhere at the top, you know what I mean? So, obviously what happens at senior leadership will trickle down. So I think it's really important to get a Black voice, or an ethnic minority voice in senior leadership. And two, I think, not just kind of shouting about and sort of celebrating Black and ethnic sort of talent and sort of voices when it's trendy, but just doing it all the time, just making it an everyday thing, making it really sort of mundane, and then it's just part of the culture, it's just part of what we do, as opposed to it being something that we do when it's trendy and, kind of falling into a little bit of sort of tokenism. So I think that's, and again, there are things that I've sort of spoken about quite openly to, to the agency that I work for. So I think they're kind of good ways to sort of tackle it.
Growing up in Bradford, when I started dancing, I kind of did everything across the board. And I think because I knew I just loved it so much, I didn't really think to myself, oh, I don't see different people as often who look like me. I was just kind of, I suppose, riding the wave, so to speak. And it was actually, I was 14 when I went to the Royal Ballet School. I did 5 years there. So obviously I'm around people, like-minded people. But I remember before I went down there were some teachers who did think I would be bullied because of my colour. And I'm not from a ballet background or anything, but, we just chose to ignore that, and I still went. And I mean, I didn't get one kind of race bullied comment, racism, anything like that. It was always a talent-focused, hard-working, disciplined atmosphere of where you go, and how what you get, or roles, or pass grades, all of that kind of stuff. It was really on your own hard work, what that individual is like. So I never, personally speaking, had a very, I suppose, kind of time of wanting to see people who look like me in these roles. I mean, there were, Carlos Acosta, my boss, now, there were dancers like him who I knew from a younger age, and then going through the Royal Ballet School, seeing companies like Ballet Black and things like that, which, they did, and they do triumph those from ethnic backgrounds more. However, when I used to see Ballet Black and then see, say, the other classical ballet companies where it wouldn't be as diverse, I never said to myself that I wouldn't ever make it to these companies. I never thought Ballet Black would be my limit. If I ended up going to a great, fantastic company like that, fair enough. However, I never thought that would be the only place I would end up. I thought because of my training, because of those teachers, because of those figureheads, and how we were treated as individuals, I was taught you can achieve anything. You can go and do anything you want if you work hard enough for it. But I know that's not the same for everyone. And I think that's what we just have to keep doing, from no matter what your background is, have those incredible teachers that I had when I was younger, pushing these youngsters or whoever to achieve their dreams, no matter where they're from or what they look like, or, you know, sexuality, anything like that, that actually, you know, you can do it too. You can get there, you know. It's, and especially in the arts and sports, it is very competitive. So there's many different factors. However, if you've got a passion for something, nothing should hold you back, especially not the color of your skin. But, you know, if we want art to keep progressing and to feed lifestyle as well, things like this need to be created and spoken about.
Thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Cheers. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.